My boyfriend passed fruit to his green tea junior female schoolmate who was chasing after him with his mouth in front of everyone, and I happened to witness it. Aaron chased after me out of the private room and said that he had drunk too much and it was just a game. I shook him off and said resolutely, "Let's break up." He raised his eyebrows and simply said, "As you like." I turned around and couldn't hold back after all. Tears gushed out uncontrollably. I wiped them randomly and left without looking back. Aaron didn't chase after me. That one explanation was already considered as him lowering his head in his opinion. In this relationship, he had long been used to this way. No matter how many times we had quarreled, it was just wishful thinking to wait for him to take the initiative to coax me. Aaron put aside his pride and softened a little by saying that I was drunk out of mercy. I should have known better. But this time, I was tired. I didn't want to accommodate anymore. After returning to the dormitory, I buried myself under the quilt. I kept thinking about the scene where their lips almost touched each other over and over again. Aaron didn't show the slightest displeasure of being offended. Instead, the corners of his mouth curved slightly and there was a bit of a smile at the corners of his eyebrows. That kind of silent and ambiguous indulgence. It was really rare for me as his girlfriend. Clearly, both Zoe and I chased after him. In terms of time, I had chased him for more than 3 times as long as she did. However, in front of Aaron, she could easily get the affection that I didn't have. I wiped my suddenly wet face. I opened WeChat. The conversation with Aaron stayed in my nagging and his silence. "Why didn't you answer the phone? What are you busy with? If you go to a party, don't drink too much. You have a bad stomach." Now that I thought about it, at that time he and his junior female schoolmate were in a romantic moment. How could he be distracted to care about me? During the agonizing hours, apart from that simple response, Aaron had nothing else to say. Suddenly, my mobile phone vibrated. I quickly came to my senses and found that there was new information in the alumni WeChat group. So what was I disappointed about? The fact that I saw with my own eyes. Even if I heard 10,000 false excuses, it would just be self-deception. Not to mention that without my showing kindness, Aaron would never be magnanimous enough to end the Cold War. The senior is treating us to barbecue. Is anyone coming? Don't miss this opportunity. The location has been sent to the group. Behind this sentence was a group photo of several people taking selfies at the barbecue stall. Aaron's face was so outstanding that it was hard to pretend not to see it. Zoe was sitting beside him. She was wearing a coat. It was the birthday gift that I gave to Aaron. He said that with this windbreaker, no matter how cold the weather was when he thought of me, he would feel warm. At this moment they were smiling brightly, as if they were a perfect match. I clenched my mobile phone tightly, and my heart hurt as if it had been burned. It turned out that my pain was so insignificant and negligible in front of another person's happiness. I clicked on the chat record with Aaron. Watching the once affectionate nicknames in it become cold. The all-night chatting and caring turned into habitual non-responses. In fact, his kindness to me had expired long ago. But I stupidly thought that there was still room for redemption. Memories are like frosting on the tip of a knife. The more you cling to them, the more you get hurt. I finally blocked him. When you really part with someone you once liked wholeheartedly and the cherished feelings, it must be extremely painful. Justin, promised myself that I would only cry this one night. The next day, I didn't get up until I received a call from the courier. "Someone has ordered flowers for you. Please sign for them." I forced myself to get up. I went downstairs to get them. It was a big bouquet of bright and beautiful small sunflowers. There was a postcard written by the florist on behalf of the sender hidden inside. "Be happy." Who sent it? My confused mind inappropriately thought of my ex-boyfriend. I opened WeChat. Slowly remembered that he had been on my blacklist all night. There was also no new information in the friend list. I accidentally clicked on the lively alumni group. Aaron's profile picture and name flashed frequently on the screen. At this moment, he was chatting and joking with others. I, who had been confused by the bouquet, instantly sobered up. How could it be him? From last night until now, Aaron had never thought of contacting me on his own initiative. So for such a long time, he hadn't even realized that he had been blocked. Maybe he didn't notice, or maybe, he also thought it was better to be strangers. His happiness had never changed because of my departure. Aaron had long been used to living alone. And I had just started. For a week after that day, I didn't contact him again. For me, who usually surrendered within a day during a Cold War, it was a miracle, right? I didn't want to be depressed in the pain of a broken relationship. I cheered myself up, tidied up casually, and decided to go out for some fresh air. It was a case of enemies crossing paths. When I was checking out at the supermarket, I met Aaron. When he saw me, he was stunned for a moment, and his eyes became cold again. It seemed that we were really just strangers. In the past, when we quarreled and I couldn't bear it and went to find him, he would also show such an indifferent expression. It seemed that he was certain that I would give in sooner or later. I withdrew my gaze and pretended not to see the things that only girls would use in his hand. Aaron's phone rang. He picked it up and said in a gentle voice, "Zoe, just wait a moment. I'll finish buying them soon." He had always been careful. Afraid that she wouldn't be satisfied, he deliberately picked several packs from each brand. I remembered that a few days ago, when I was watching a movie with Aaron, I suddenly had such severe menstrual pain that I couldn't stand up. He helped me sit down, bought brown sugar, and then brought me hot water. Before I could be moved, I heard him complaining in a low voice while playing games on his phone. Girls are so troublesome. The thoughtfulness that was like winning a lottery for me was 100% for Zoe from the very beginning. I numbly swiped my phone to pay the bill. I thought self-mockingly about how many times I had hypnotized myself in the past. I actually thought that he liked me. Even if it was just a little bit. I walked very fast. I didn't look at him again from beginning to end. Naturally, I didn't notice his awkward and conflicted expression. It wasn't until Aaron grabbed me. The once intimate action now only made me feel disgusted. I tried hard to break free from his hand and asked coldly, "What's the matter?" Aaron frowned. His eyes, which always held indifference and aloofness, stared at me motionlessly. It seemed that he had noticed that I was different from before. He hesitated for a long time. When I was running out of patience, he finally said, "She can't buy them conveniently now. I'm just helping." Was he explaining? But what did it have to do with me? I said expressionlessly, "Oh." Seeing that I wasn't moved, he showed a slightly annoyed expression again. "It's been so many days. Haven't you made enough fuss yet?" It turned out that in his opinion, my saying of breaking up was just a disguised tantrum. So he dealt with it coldly as usual. Waiting for me to figure it out on my own and take the initiative to make up. Humbly making me his dispensable accessory. Why did Aaron think that I couldn't live without him? Aaron. It turned out that after I really gave up, his every word wouldn't stir any waves in me anymore. "Don't you understand what breaking up means?" I sneered. He was stunned for a while, his mouth opening and closing. "It was you who said you liked me at the beginning. It was you who said that no matter what happened you would always be nice to me." There was a brief look of confusion and panic in Aaron's eyes. It was like watching a docile prey break free from control and no longer obey any orders. My heart was as calm as still water and unshakable. In those years, he was wild and unrestrained and accidentally saved me when I was harassed by hooligans. Later, I learned that Aaron's original family was not happy. After his parents divorced, they went their separate ways and had no more concern for him. So I pestered him, pouring out all my patience and thoughtfulness to warm his lonely heart. Unfortunately, after such a long time, he still didn't understand what love was. I looked at him and said word by word, "You also said it was in the past. Now I don't want to do it anymore. And I won't want to in the future." After saying that, I left. In a hurry, Aaron was about to grab me again. During this scuffle, a boy on a bicycle wobbled and rushed over. Although I no longer loved him in my heart, my body still had a strange inertia. I pushed Aaron away and he was saved from being hurt. The bicycle crashed into me. I fell to the ground and my palms and legs were scratched. Aaron didn't expect that I would have such a reaction. He stood there in a daze for a long time before he hurriedly came to help me. Suddenly, the phone in his hand rang as if urging him. He quickly glanced at the name jumping on the screen and stopped his action. There was no need to guess. It must be Zoe. Instead, the boy on the bicycle ran over first, crouched down, and frowned as he looked at my bleeding wound. Sorry. Are you okay? I gritted my teeth, watching Aaron hesitate for a few seconds and choose to answer the phone first. I'm okay. As soon as I said it, my voice became hoarse. I'll take you to the infirmary. The perpetrator helped me up. The student card in my pocket fell out. The facial features on the ID photo were handsome. His name was Justin. When I got closer, I realized that the photo had made his good-looking face look much less attractive. He had a high nose bridge, deep eyes, long and thick eyelashes. His skin was fair and cool-toned. I was charmed by the beauty right in front of me for a second. I vaguely felt that I seemed to have seen this person somewhere before. Justin didn't hear my answer and looked worried. Can't you walk? I wanted to say it wasn't that serious. I could just apply some medicine by myself. But the next second, I suddenly felt myself lifted up. Justin picked me up horizontally. Aaron almost interrupted his conversation with Zoe at the same time. He raised his voice with an unfriendly look on his face. Where are you from? Who asked you to pick her up? Justin didn't bother to pay attention to him. He raised his eyebrows and asked me, is he your boyfriend? I replied honestly, ex-boyfriend. Justin curled the corners of his mouth and looked at Aaron, who was so angry that he was left speechless. He said sarcastically in a cool tone, mind your own business. In the infirmary, the school doctor cleaned the sand from the wound on my knee, stopped the bleeding, and bandaged it. Justin waited by the side the whole time and paid the bill. He was about to pick me up again. I quickly stopped him. I can walk. After being in a relationship with Aaron for so long, I learned one thing. If I could do something by myself, I would never trouble others. Not only would I not get comfort, but I might also be blamed for taking up his time for playing games. Seeing that I was very determined, he had to give up. May I borrow your mobile phone? He asked. I took it out, unlocked it, and handed it to him. This Justin was actually quite nice. From just now until now, he kept apologizing, complied with every request, and was very straightforward about compensation. Although it was a bit funny that he was still learning to ride a bicycle at this age. Justin dialed a few numbers. Then his own phone rang. He wrote down the number and returned my phone to me. I took it and found that there was a new friend verification request on WeChat. There was only one simple word for the name. Justin. Your leg may be inconvenient in the next few days. His beautiful eyes looked at me, and his voice carried a gentle tone that was hard to notice. I'll accompany you to have meals and classes. Seeing that I was about to refute again, he immediately interrupted, it's settled. The school doctor snickered and also persuaded me to give up my stubbornness. There are too many steps in the school. Since your boyfriend is so considerate, girl, don't be too stubborn. I was very embarrassed. Maybe Justin didn't hear it, and his expression was much calmer. You've misunderstood. We had just known each other for less than half an hour. Brother. Before I could finish my words, I heard a girl's shout from outside the door. This voice was so familiar to me. Justin just turned around. A figure rushed in and directly hugged him. They said you were in the infirmary. They also said you fell badly. Whoa, what happened? Where did you fall? Sure enough, Zoe and I had a deep connection. I looked at their deep affection as siblings coldly. Where did I fall? I fell on myself. I didn't want to stay in this unlucky place. I propped myself up and stood up, then walked outside. As a result, I was stopped by Justin, who took a hasty glance at me and then strode forward. Immediately, I dodged as if I had touched a hot potato. Justin was stunned for a moment. He withdrew his hand instantly and pretended not to care as he said, I'll take you. Zoe finally stopped showing her coquettish concern for her brother and shifted her gaze to me, who had a gloomy expression. She smiled charmingly and gave an unnecessary self-introduction. Senior, do you still remember me? I'm Zoe, majoring in media. How could I forget? When I was greeting the freshmen at the railway station during my freshman year, Zoe was the first one I met. It was me who helped her carry the luggage under the scorching sun and sent her back to the dormitory. During an outdoor activity, when it was pouring rain, I was the one who left the only umbrella for her. When I met her in the cafeteria and she didn't have money on her card, I was the one who paid for her meal. I thought I had gained a good friend. However, she had an ambiguous relationship with Aaron behind my back. And my boyfriend silently connived at her subtle interference and inappropriate closeness. Before, I always thought that I was just being too sensitive. Feeling downcast, I still tried to find excuses for both of them. Until they were intimately close, as if no one else was around under the pretext of playing games. Well, I don't need a boyfriend like this anyway. Brother, it seems that Senior Kia doesn't like you very much. After all, you bumped into her, and it's normal for her to hold a grudge at the moment. Zoe's words were like hidden knives, and she joked coquettishly, "Why don't I take the senior back?" No need. My voice and Justin's rang out simultaneously. Justin's eyes fell on my knee wrapped in gauze, and he ordered his sister, "Don't make trouble. Go back to class." Zoe didn't agree. Justin gave her a cold look. She immediately agreed meekly, looking rather reluctant. Then he came over to me. Originally, I could have walked by myself. But seeing Zoe's angry expression, I changed my mind. "Justin." I called his name weakly. "You said you'd take me, right?" Justin's eyes were deep, and the corners of his mouth curved slightly. "Yes. My leg hurts a lot. Maybe it's not very convenient for me to walk." I deliberately wrinkled my face, looking pitiful. Justin understood what I meant. In Zoe's disbelieving eyes, he picked me up horizontally again. His chest was burning hot. I vaguely heard the deafening heartbeat inside. I didn't know whose it was. Catching a glimpse of Zoe biting her lip, wanting to get angry but being afraid of Justin, I finally felt an unprecedented sense of satisfaction in my heart. In order to take revenge on my love rival who was a green tea bitch, I began to get close to her dearest brother. Since that day, Justin had kept his promise and picked me up and dropped me off regardless of the weather. However, I wasn't that thick-skinned. Except when going up and down the stairs, I walked independently at other times. His personality was completely different from Zoe's. He was cold on the outside. But deep inside, he seemed very warm. One day when I came out of the library, I casually mentioned that I wanted to eat cake. The next day downstairs in the dormitory, I saw him holding an exquisite box in his hand. When he saw me, he quietly handed it to me. I opened it and found that it was a cream cake. And it was even my favorite strawberry flavor. Looking at his poker face, I thought it must be a coincidence. "Thank you." After confirming that I really liked it, the uneasiness hidden in his eyes softened with this sentence. "Tomorrow, I'm going to the pottery studio with my friends." There were some glimmers in Justin's cold eyes. "Would you like to come along?" Having eaten his cake, I felt obliged. I swallowed the strawberry cream in my mouth and felt a bit embarrassed. But I'm really clumsy with my hands. Maybe I would make a lot of strange-shaped things. He couldn't help laughing. He reached out and gently brushed the fallen leaves off my hair and comforted me in a soft voice, "It's just for fun. What does it matter?" The handicraft team building activity the next day was really lively. They were all good friends of Justin's. We were about the same age. After greeting each other, we quickly got acquainted. Justin slowly rolled up the sleeves of his shirt, sat down, and played with the clay in front of him. I looked around with curiosity in my eyes. Before, Aaron seldom took me to meet his friends. He always said that when there were girls at a men's gathering, they couldn't have a good time. Even without friends around, he seldom went out with me alone. There was a time when I was very interested in pottery. I begged him to go with me. He always found excuses to decline. "It's so dirty. What's the fun in it? Is there any difference from playing with mud? It's both costly and boring. It's better to play games in the dormitory." After several times, I finally gave up. Unexpectedly, after breaking up, this little wish of mine came true. I felt a pang of sadness in my heart. When I came back to my senses, I met Justin's gaze. He signaled me to sit beside him. Would you like to give it a try? I nodded, feeling a bit excited. Just as I put my hand on the clay blank, my phone suddenly rang. Because it was inconvenient to operate with my hands dirty, I quickly wiped my fingertips clean and clicked on the speakerphone. Kia, Aaron is drunk and can't even walk. Could you come and pick him up? The caller was Zakai, a mutual friend of Aaron and me. I subconsciously looked at Justin. His movement paused for a moment, and then he lowered his head and continued as if he hadn't heard anything. Kia, what's going on between you two? Aaron has been looking for you and he's in a really bad state. Please come over. Zakai sounded really stressed. I frowned and finally roughly cleaned the stains on my hands, stood up and walked towards the door. Aaron seldom drank on weekdays. Besides, he was proud and cared a lot about his face. So, only I knew what he looked like when he was drunk a few times. When he was very young, his mother remarried, and his father got married again. Both of them had new children, so they had even less energy to take care of him. Even on his birthday once a year, they would forget to call him. Every time he celebrated his birthday, I was the only one who accompanied him. It was also at that time that I saw him drunk out of his mind for the first time, almost losing control of his emotions. He kept asking me if he was the worst person in the world. That's why he was so coldly abandoned by his biological parents. Other people had warm families, but he had hardly ever felt that. I hugged him tightly and also wept sadly. You still have me. I'll always be with you. Because of his past. In our relationship, I always gave in again and again, reluctant to cause him even the slightest pain. I was even naive enough to think that his wandering heart could only find a haven with me. However, such unreserved dedication was repaid with chilling betrayal and hurt. Recalling the past, I couldn't help tightening my fingers holding the phone. It felt as if my heart was being silently squeezed. This feeling made it hard to breathe. I stood outside the door and looked at Justin's profile through the French window. He was absent-mindedly staring at the clay blank in front of him. There was an inexplicable sense of depression and loneliness in his expression. I had an illusion that he seemed to be very afraid of me leaving. Zakai, Aaron might not have told you that we have broken up. After I said that, Zakai was indeed very surprised. The pretty junior who had been around him these days, you should have all seen her, right? Thinking of this, I felt a powerless anger. They were supposed to be our mutual friends. However, after seeing him being ambiguous with someone else, none of them told me. I was kept in the dark for so long, like a clown. Only when he was drunk and needed someone to deal with the aftermath would they think of me. I'll give you her phone number. You can contact her to pick up Aaron. They have a pretty good relationship. Kia, that was a misunderstanding. Zakai was indeed both guilty and uneasy. Actually, that junior doesn't really care about Aaron. Aaron didn't have any other intentions. He just thought she was rather delicate and innocent and needed more care. Just because I was considerate and good at taking care of people, did I deserve to be cheated on and left to clean up the mess? I interrupted him, they're quite a match. Aaron being drunk is a good opportunity to enhance their relationship. It would be inappropriate for me to interfere. Zakai still wanted to say something, but I had no interest in listening anymore. Although I refused him, I didn't feel any sense of revenge at all. Aaron had had serious self-harm behavior when he was drunk before. I hated the thought of him doing something impulsive because of me. Since we had already broken up, whether it was good or bad, I didn't want to have anything to do with him anymore. While I was lost in thought for the nth time, Justin finally stopped what he was doing. He looked at me and asked gently, "Is something on your mind?" I came back to my senses and shook my head. To be fair, Justin was nice to me. Rather, he was so considerate that it was beyond my expectation. Although we hadn't known each other for long, I often felt that he understood me very well. He knew what I liked to eat, what I hated, and even knew exactly which singer I was following recently. Moreover, he somehow got a concert ticket and gave it to me. Although Justin just casually said that it was given by a friend. But I knew he was lying. The concert tickets were sold in limited quantities as fan benefits and were promoted in a very low-key way. Only die-hard fans would notice them. I had tried to grab them on time for several days but failed. And it was even less likely that someone would buy them and then return them. When I asked him about the origin of the ticket, he pretended to be impatient. I've long forgotten. Helplessly, I was forced to accept his kindness. I don't know since when, my phone was almost flooded with his messages. Justin was taciturn, and the content of our chats was also unusually concise. Come downstairs. I've bought some food for you. It's time to change the dressing on your knee. Don't eat cold food during your period. The thermos is full. I've left it at the stairway. The fruit is in the dormitory management office. Go and get it after class. Don't stay up late. Go to bed. I've borrowed the book you want to read. I'm waiting for you downstairs in the dormitory. At first, he let me order him around in the name of compensation, and the reason I agreed was just to spite Zoe. However, the nicer Justin was to me, the heavier my sense of guilt became. My leg injury had already healed long ago. I thought that I should also make things clear. Kia? My thoughts were pulled back by his cold voice. Only then did I realize that Justin was standing opposite me at some point. When I looked over at him, he frowned slightly and gently lifted my chin with his warm hand. He forced me to look up and meet his eyes. Why are you unhappy? I avoided his gaze. Nothing. He stared at me unblinkingly, and then he gave in with a slight sigh. He borrowed a friend's car. Let's go. Question mark. Although Justin raised the corners of his mouth, his smile didn't reach his eyes. Since you're so worried, then, I'll accompany you. In the end, I couldn't resist Justin and went with him. When we arrived at the hotel entrance, I deeply regretted it. Aaron was so drunk that his legs went weak and he was being supported by Zakai. The moment he saw me and Justin, he got emotional, his eyes turning red. No wonder you've been ignoring me for so many days. Kia. You're really something. It hasn't been long since we broke up. And you're already so charmed by him that you're always together every day. His drunken accusations were angry and unreasonable, but he seemed quite energetic. Let's go. I was speechless for a while and didn't bother to argue with a drunk. I just wanted to take Justin and quickly escape from this suffocating place. Zakai beside him anxiously explained loudly, Aaron, stop being so stubborn. What's the use of pretending to be strong? Why don't you just say directly that you want to get back together with Kia? You've been calling Kia's name all the time when you were drunk just now, and now you're quarreling like enemies. What are you trying to achieve? I paused for a moment. Did I hear that right? Aaron wanted to get back together? You two were together for 2 years. You couldn't have lasted that long without feelings, right? It's quite normal for young couples to have quarrels, break up and then make up. Aaron quickly and sincerely apologized to Kia. Let's clear up any misunderstandings as soon as possible. There can't be no conflicts in a relationship. I understood what Zakai meant. He wanted to be a peacemaker and urged us to get back together. Unfortunately, I didn't want to have any more entanglement with Aaron. Zakai's words seemed to have barbs aimed at Justin between the lines. Justin's face darkened. For my sake, he just pursed his lips patiently and remained coldly silent. Aaron looked at him with hatred in his eyes. Drunk as he was, he said in a reckless way, Kia, I know you too well. Aren't you deliberately approaching her brother just because you hate Zoe and want to annoy her? You don't really like him at all. How long has he known you? Haven't you thought that he might be deliberately deceiving you? Those dark little thoughts were mercilessly exposed. After all, although they were siblings, they were two different individuals. The time we spent together these days made me even more certain that Justin wasn't what Aaron said. The grudges with Zoe shouldn't be taken out on someone who was truly nice to me. I felt guilty and looked at Justin awkwardly. There was disbelief and hurt in his eyes. But there wasn't the slightest bit of resentment or hatred. Justin met my eyes full of apology. His Adam's apple moved slightly, and his tone was gentle. Whether what he said is true or false, I don't care. His tolerance only makes me feel worse. Since Aaron is so unkind, I don't want to be polite either, there's no way we'll get back together. Don't even think about it in this lifetime. The complicated and heavy emotions were like ropes tightening around my heart. On impulse I announced heatedly, who says I don't really like him? Aaron shouldn't think that he can call me whenever he wants and dismiss me whenever he likes. How shameless. I won't be so loyal to him anymore. What right does he have? Everyone was stunned. Aaron frowned as if trying to see through me. Sakai thought I was just saying angry words on purpose. Kia, Aaron is just drunk. Don't take it to heart. I pretended not to hear and in the eyes of countless shocked people put my arms around Justin's neck. Just when my lips were about to touch his, my reason came back. He would hate me, right? He would push me away and blame me for using him as a tool for showing off. My originally aggressive action shrank back. Unexpectedly, Justin suddenly put his arms around my waist and kissed me hard. I was dumbfounded. The fresh scent of the young man rushed towards me. His embrace was so warm that it made my bones feel weak. Until Aaron was so angry that he was about to come up and hit someone, and then Zoe arrived and let out a scream that seemed to pierce the sky. I finally came to my senses and pushed Justin away with my cheeks burning. In a daze, I heard Zoe's voice. Awesome. Zoe, Senior Kia, you're really awesome. Her expression made me suspect that she would start clapping passionately in the next second. Why did it feel so strange? Logically speaking, since I had made a move on her beloved brother, she should have come up to pull my hair and start a fight with me. How could she praise me with such a realistic and approving expression? In a daze, I was hugged into Justin's arms again. I vaguely heard him greet his sister through gritted teeth, "You've come at just the right time. I have a lot of things to ask you properly." Aaron was dumbfounded at first and then was about to start cursing. Justin stared at him and the hostility and irritability in his eyes were clearly visible. His voice was cold and hard, "If you harass my girlfriend again, I won't be polite." That was a side of him that I had never seen before. The atmosphere at the scene was so tense that it seemed a fight was about to break out. I tried both soft and hard ways to persuade him and pushed him to leave the place. In the car, I sat in the passenger seat and Zoe sat in the back row. Justin's slender fingers tapped the steering wheel a few times. With a dark face and slightly furrowed eyebrows, he looked at me. He asked in a hoarse voice, "What's going on between you two?" "Kia, you speak first." Zoe seemed very afraid of him. She scratched her hair and carefully probed, "Brother, why don't you listen to my explanation first?" "Shut up." Zoe really fell silent. I cleared my throat. Under Justin's gaze, I felt a bit more confident. "When I hadn't broken up yet, your sister had already taken a liking to my ex-boyfriend. I guess she likes to recycle secondhand trash. So I simply let them be." Zoe immediately burst into tears, looking aggrieved and anxiously defending herself. "Sister, I don't even look at that bastard Aaron. If it weren't for seeing that you and my brother are already so close, I wouldn't have said these things." Zoe leaned over and to prove that she wasn't lying showed me the pictures on her phone. "Aaron really likes to flirt with others behind your back." I was so angry. I wanted to tell you several times. But I was afraid that you were sentimental and soft-hearted. What if he pretended to be pitiful and you forgave him without hesitation? Besides taking the initiative to set a trap and make him show his true colors in front of you, I really couldn't think of any other harsher way. In each picture on the screen, Aaron was chatting, laughing and joking with different girls, putting his arms around their shoulders or waists. There were some girls I knew, his childhood friends. And there were many others I didn't know. Before, I trusted him so much. I had always firmly believed that although he was slow to warm up to people, he would never do anything out of line. Who knew that Aaron had been lying to me for so long? Those girls were probably laughing at me for being a fool as they happily followed him around while I was kept in the dark and believed all his lies. I clenched my fists even harder, trembling all over, and my nails dug into my flesh until a warm hand covered mine. It was Justin. He covered the screen with his other hand. He said coldly with disgust, "Put it away. What's there to look at with a scumbag?" Zoe angrily took back her phone and was still feeling indignant for me. Sister, you're such a gentle and nice person. How could you be ruined by such a lowlife scumbag? The junior female schoolmate was full of grief and indignation. For the happiness of sister and brother, I'm willing to tame that dog with myself. Zoe leaned over, wanting to hug me. I dodged. She looked on the verge of crying. Please, as long as sister can calm down, I'll do anything. The rival in love suddenly became a friend. My emotions were also in a mess. But don't you dislike me approaching your brother? Zoe immediately showed a smug expression as if she knew exactly how things would develop. My brother protects you as if you were his heart. The more hostile I am towards you, the closer he'll stay by your side, and then you too, hee. Slap. Justin slapped Zoe on the head. It was very light, but extremely insulting. He warned expressionlessly, if you've done something dishonorable, keep your mouth shut. Brother, you old fox, stop pretending. You've liked Sister Kia for a long time. Slap. Another slap. It was really a unique way of showing brotherly and sisterly love. Justin, I told you to say less. Don't you understand? Zoe was sent by Justin to buy milk tea for me. My attempts to stop her were useless. Zoe happily got out of the car. Before leaving, she came over gossipingly. Sister, no, it's sister-in-law now. That kiss you took the initiative to give just now, TSK, I guess my brother will be sleepless for several days. I'm leaving. You two have a good chat. No, have a good kiss. I blushed. Justin pretended not to hear, only the tips of his ears were slightly pink. He was holding his phone, doing something that I didn't know. After a while, he looked up at me. His eyes were clear and gentle. I've booked the tickets. Tomorrow, let's go to the seaside together. The vast sea and the free sea breeze. They can always make people forget the unhappy past. He was comforting me in his own way. I don't know when it started. I could guess the motives behind everything he did. Justin. I summoned up the courage to look at him. You knew me a long time ago, right? The bits and pieces of our past interactions had already made me suspicious. Just now, I was completely awakened by Zoe's words. If he hadn't known me for a long time, how could he know all my little hobbies and habits so well? That was the question that intrigued me the most. But Justin didn't seem to want to answer. I was so impatient for a moment, afraid that he would run away. I wanted to get out of the car and go to the driver's seat to hold him down first and then question him. But just as I opened the door, he pulled me back hard. There was a pleading look in Justin's eyes, and his voice was hoarse and difficult. Don't go. I'll tell you. He thought I was throwing a tantrum, so he gave in. It was a lucky coincidence. I gently tried to break free. He was so insistent that I couldn't break free. I had no choice but to listen in the position of holding hands. Justin's gaze on me changed from helplessness to softness slowly. You saved me? When was that? I looked shocked. He smiled, covering up the not-so-obvious sense of loss. I knew it. You don't remember. When Justin was 17 years old, his father died of a sudden illness. The pillar of the family was gone. His mother and sister couldn't accept it and wept all day long. The boy grew up overnight. Biting back his grief, he became the only spiritual support in his family's hearts. His mother's health broke down because she cried too much. He took care of her in the hospital. He didn't sleep for 3 days and 3 nights. After arranging his father's funeral, he rented a house near the hospital and let his sister live in the place closest to him. He watched over his mother day and night, fearing that she might do something stupid. He rushed back and forth between home and the hospital every day. He didn't have time to grieve or take care of his own body. In front of them, he always maintained a strong and reliable appearance. But the more the pain was suppressed, the stronger the rebound was. Justin said that was when I appeared. I remembered it. It was a summer. My cousin was hospitalized, and I went to take care of her. I saw a young man on the hospital terrace. He was wearing a mask, looking tired and sad. Only a pair of astonishing, wet and eye-catching eyes were exposed. Justin missed his father so much. But he didn't dare to show it in front of them. So he hid here alone, crying silently. I was about to leave when I saw him suddenly grab the railing in front of him and his head started to lean forward. One careless move and he would fall over. Outside the railing was a high altitude. I was so scared that my heart almost stopped beating. The thought of saving him surpassed everything else. I ran over and hugged him. Don't be impulsive. Please don't be impulsive. As long as you're alive, there's hope. Right? I was so panicked that my mind went blank. If a person has nothing to live for, what else can make him stay? I was already a bit fuzzy about my reaction at that time. But Justin remembered it clearly. You were naming dishes. Ah, yes. Good food can make people full of hope for life. You thought I wanted to kill myself. Justin lowered his voice, his eyes like spring water. Actually, I was just too tired and felt dizzy for a moment. He looked at me, with a smile on his lips. You hugged me and begged me to live well. You cried even harder than I did. I thought, this girl is so silly. He carefully touched my head, his eyes full of doting, silly and cute. That was a strange comfort and pure kindness after a cold and sudden change. It was a rose offered before the last straw that broke the camel's back. He said I saved him. Perhaps in his heart, it wasn't just a misunderstanding. The teenager on the verge of a breakdown was in desperate need of an unrestrained hug. Justin found out which ward I was in the next day. Unfortunately, I had already been discharged from the hospital with my cousin. He was annoyed that he hadn't asked for my name or phone number. He had been searching aimlessly for so many years. Unexpectedly, by a twist of fate, we happened to be in the same university. On the day of freshman registration, he recognized me at a glance among the sea of people. Just as he was about to excitedly get to know me, he saw me holding Aaron's arm, inseparable from him. All my attention was on Aaron. The joy of being in love in my eyes made him hesitate. For 2 years in university, Justin had been silently by my side. However, I never knew of his existence. He hadn't even greeted me once. If you're happy, I can't disrupt that. If you're not happy, I'll be the first one to come to you. It turned out that we had met so long ago. Justin was wearing a mask at that time. No wonder I didn't recognize him. Although we were in the same school, the only connection between us was Zoe. When Justin learned that we knew each other, he seriously asked his sister to take good care of me. Zoe was clever and understood her brother's feelings quickly. At the same time, she discovered how bad Aaron was. So she simply exposed his disguise in the quickest way and played matchmaker for me and Justin. I suddenly remembered all those unsigned gifts I received during every festival. So, were all the anonymous gifts I received from you? Was that bouquet of sunflowers also from you? This had always been a mystery to me. Besides the flowers, during every major or minor festival, I would receive some express deliveries. There was a handwritten card in each of them that said, "Wish you happiness." The handwriting was elegant and nice. The gifts were sometimes watches, water cups, necklaces. There were scarves that came in handy when it was cold, and surprisingly, co-branded earphones. Since I didn't know who sent them, nor did I understand the sender's intention, and the courier said they couldn't be returned, I had no choice but to accept them, but I never used them. It turned out that all of this was his silent care. Maybe sending gifts has bothered you. Justin's eyes were soft. His Adam's apple bobbed, and finally, he restrained himself and gently brushed my bangs aside. His voice became even hoarser. I'm sorry. I just missed you so much. Every time he missed me, he would send some carefully selected gifts, letting them accompany the person he loved. When I broke up, he really was the first one to show up. Perhaps many times before, he had also cared about my every emotion from a distance like this. When I was with Aaron, I always seemed insignificant. His sense of insecurity, his constant worry about gains and losses, made me miserable. I even forgot what it felt like to love and be loved seriously. Justin handed me a gift box and gently asked me to open it. It was a game console that I had been longing for. Every time I made up my mind to buy it, I was afraid that Aaron would say I was childish. It had become a habit to sacrifice my own wishes to avoid disappointing him. My voice was muffled, and tears were about to fall. How do you know everything? I didn't even recognize you, and I wasn't nice to you at all. Perhaps when you love someone, you'll know all their preferences. Every insignificant word they say, every boring WeChat status they post, will be regarded as key points on an exam paper and carefully speculated on over and over again. If I hadn't broken up with Aaron, if I hadn't wanted to take revenge, if he hadn't always taken meticulous care of me during our time together, knowing what was on my mind, yet never getting angry about it, how long would it have taken me to notice this love? The more I thought about it, the sadder I felt, and tears kept falling. Justin was stunned. He hurriedly used tissues to wipe my tears, looking completely at a loss and full of tenderness and pity. What's wrong? Don't cry. I should have kept it to myself if I had known this would happen. Kia, please don't cry, okay? Seeing that I didn't listen to him, Justin was so flustered that he didn't know what to do. He pretended to be fierce and threatened, if you keep crying, I'll kiss you. I really will. Are you scared? MMM. I took the initiative to hug him. I had made him wait for too long, far too long. Let me take the initiative with this kiss. I had been with Sean for 7 years. My childhood sweetheart sent me a video of Sean kissing a female college student. I didn't cry or make a fuss. I resolutely gave up on him and finally got married to my childhood sweetheart. But on the eve of the wedding, Sean found me and sneered, "Sorry, do you think Ryan is any good? He showed me a video in which your childhood sweetheart was sleeping with my sister. What a bastard. That bitch's mother stole my mother's husband, and now her daughter is trying to steal my fiancé." Seeing that my face was gradually turning pale, Sean had a smug and mocking smile on his face. "Sorry, you chose such a guy after breaking up with me? But if you beg me now, I can consider getting back together with you." I raised my head and smiled smugly. "Really? Since you said so, I'm definitely getting married." Sean's smug expression disappeared, and his face turned gloomy. "Sorry, are you cheap or what? Ryan slept with another woman on the eve of your wedding, and you still want to marry him?" I tried hard to calm my emotions and asked in return, "Isn't it even cheaper to get back together with the ex-boyfriend of the cheating female college student?" Sean's expression froze for a moment and his eyes became red. "You were always busy with work at that time. I was just having some fun with her, and it was already over long ago. I begged you countless times, but you didn't give me a single chance. Why are you still willing to marry Ryan even though he cheated?" I really didn't want to argue with him, so I replied, "I'm happy to do so." Sean gritted his teeth but could do nothing to me. He could only leave angrily. After Sean left, I sat alone on the sofa, feeling cold all over, but my thoughts became calmer. Sean was really naive. When we were young, we could have a passionate and boisterous relationship for the sake of love. But now that we've reached the age of starting a family and building a career, we can't afford to fool around anymore. My family and Ryan's family are old family friends. The two families' marriage alliance has already been the talk of the town in the media. Our marriage involves the interests of the two families. If there's the slightest problem with the wedding, it might cause fluctuations in the stock prices of both families. Since there's no love between us anymore, at least I have to hold on to the interests of the two families firmly. On this day, I had an appointment with Ryan for dinner. Halfway through, he received a phone call. After just a few words from the other side, his expression immediately became nervous. "Don't do anything stupid. I'll be there right away." After hanging up the phone, Ryan apologized to me with a pitiful look, like a little dog. Sorry. There's something going on at the company. I have to go back." "Something going on at the company?" "I'm afraid it's Cecilia who has something going on." "Right. I don't understand what Ryan was thinking. He clearly knew my family's situation very well. My mother was driven to death by Cecilia's mother. Why did he have to cheat with her? Why did he have to disgust me like this? The young man who used to curse Cecilia and her mother with me is now sleeping with her. Disgusting. It's so disgusting. But I can't break up with him right now." I clenched my trembling hands and let him go. Less than 5 minutes after Ryan left, Sean showed up out of nowhere. He sat in Ryan's seat, crossed his long legs and looked at me. He didn't say anything, and I didn't bother to pay attention to him. I just focused on eating. Sean couldn't hold on for a minute and took the initiative to speak. Suri, guess what Ryan is going to do? He said there's something going on at the company. Oh, you really believe that? He's gone to see your sister. Oh. Obviously, Sean wasn't satisfied with my reaction. He punched the table, his face gloomy and gritted his teeth. Suri, are you deaf? I said he's gone to see your sister. I looked up at his out-of-control expression and asked, and then? How can you tolerate him but not me? At least I didn't sleep with that woman. Maybe I love him more. This sentence broke Sean's defense again. He got up again and left angrily. Before leaving, he left a sentence. Suri, don't regret it. How could I regret it? When I would be on the verge of death for love. When I'm 28, I just want to make money. Marrying into Ryan's family through the marriage alliance can help me make more money. I thought Ryan would stay overnight at Cecilia's place. Unexpectedly, he came back that night. He also brought me a bouquet of roses. Suri, this is for you. His expression was so innocent, just like a big boy confessing his love to the girl he liked. His eyes were shining brightly. I was a bit curious. Ryan didn't major in acting in college. Why is his acting so good? He's sleeping with another woman while pretending to be affectionate in front of me. What's he after? I couldn't figure it out and I didn't bother to think about it. I accepted Ryan's flowers and he happily hugged me. Suri, it's so nice. You'll belong to me alone soon. And you'll belong to me alone soon too. I replied. At least in name. Ryan was a bit excited when he heard this answer. He leaned in and wanted to kiss me. But thinking that his mouth might have been kissing Cecilia not long ago, I felt sick to my stomach. I pushed him away. Suri? Ryan looked at me in surprise, with the look of disgust on my face that hadn't been completely hidden yet, as if he was hurt. I didn't want to meet his gaze and said, I have a stomachache. It wasn't an excuse. I have stomach problems. I got this illness because I worked too hard in previous years. Now I'm very delicate. I'm afraid of cold, heat, acid, and spicy food. Even getting too emotional can make it hurt. So generally, I don't get too emotional, but tonight, I was so disgusted that it started to hurt again. Ryan also knew that I had stomach problems. He didn't dare to be careless and immediately went to get me medicine. After that, we just pretended that nothing had happened. On the weekend, Ryan and I went back to the Suri family. After my mother died, I seldom went back there and lived elsewhere, but now that we're getting married, there are always some unavoidable things to discuss. Brother Ryan, you're here. Cecilia ignored me completely and greeted Ryan directly when she came out. Fortunately, Ryan still knew how to avoid suspicion and just responded faintly. During the meal, Cecilia kept putting food on Ryan's plate, being extremely attentive. Brother Ryan, have some more. These are all your favorites. Thank you. Ryan was very polite and also put food on my plate. Suri, this is relatively light. Have some more. Seeing that Cecilia was almost grinding her back teeth in anger, I found it funny. It seemed that Ryan hadn't promised Cecilia a proper status. At least he knew what was important. But Cecilia wasn't so sensible. The next day, she came to the company to find me with an aggressive posture. Suri, I have something to talk to you about. Just right. Actually, I also had something to talk to her about. The two of us went to the coffee shop downstairs. I slept with Brother Ryan. Cecilia was triumphant. I calmly took a sip of coffee. It was so bitter. The waiter must be new and forgot to add sugar. I put down the cup and glanced at Cecilia. And then? Cecilia didn't expect that I would be so calm and gritted her teeth. Brother Ryan loves me. He chased you just because it was a task given by his family. So it was a task? No wonder he pretended to be affectionate in front of me. Cecilia, since you know that he's marrying me because of family reasons, you shouldn't come to provoke me. I hold 45% of the shares of the Suri family. Is Ryan going to marry you instead of me? The incident of the mistress trying to force the legitimate wife out had caused a big stir before. To give an explanation to my mother's side, the Suri family promised that they would never hand over the shares of the Suri family to the mistress and her daughter. My words hit Cecilia hard. She immediately became red-eyed, looking weak and pitiful. Unfortunately, there was no man here to pity her. She angrily said to me, "Suri, let's wait and see. If my mother could win over your mother, I can also win over you. I'll wait and see. It'll be your ability if you can make Ryan change his mind and marry you. But don't come to provoke me again in the future. That's what I want to tell you today. Now you can leave." Cecilia left angrily. I didn't move from my seat. Because of that bitter sip of coffee just now, my stomach started to hurt again. Just when I wanted to take a break, Sean walked in from outside. He walked straight towards me. Obviously, he was coming for me. This guy, he's really like a ghost that won't go away. "Suri, why bother? Speak plainly." I quietly rubbed my stomach. I didn't have the energy to argue with him. Sean glared at me angrily. "Ryan allows this kind of woman to humiliate you, and you still want to marry him? Our wedding is coming soon. Who else should I marry if not him? Marry me. I'll definitely treat you well and will never let any woman humiliate you like this." He said it very seriously, looking extremely affectionate. I found it funny. Thinking back many years ago, he also said to me so seriously that he would be good to me. But in fact, 7 years later, we grew further and further apart, spending less and less time together. He was also photographed kissing a female college student by Ryan, and that female student later knelt down to beg me to let them be together. Isn't it the same thing? How dare he say such things? Sean, get lost. You make me sick. I got up to leave. But the severe pain in my stomach made me black out for a moment. When I woke up again, I was lying on the hospital bed, and Sean's anxious and distressed expression came into my view. "You know you have a bad stomach but still drank coffee. Do you think you're too tough to die? Suri, you swore that you'd live a better life when you left me. But look at you now? Your fiancé betrayed you, and you don't even take good care of yourself with your stomach problem. I'm sorry, okay? I really won't make mistakes again. Can you come back to me and let me take care of you?" Sean said a lot more, but my thoughts drifted away. After my mother passed away, my father and the mistress couldn't wait to seize my shares. When I was in college, because of Cecilia's interference, other people thought that I was the mistress's daughter and bullied me in various ways. After Ryan found out, although he wanted to help me, he was studying abroad at that time and it was too far away to offer immediate help. Sean was a star at school at that time, shining brightly. He came like a god and led me out of the darkest time. We naturally got together. Until he told the female college student that he was already tired of me and would find a way to get rid of me and give her a proper status. Only then did I realize. Probably all men are so fickle. My father is. Sean is. Ryan is too. Sean came to win me back now, not because he liked me that much, but because he was unwilling. He was just unwilling that I was the one who proposed the breakup first. Because of my stomach problem, I didn't go to the company anymore. I went home after leaving the hospital. Unexpectedly, Ryan was also there. Seeing me come back, he immediately turned to look at me. His usually sunny face was now ashen. "Did you meet Sean?" I don't understand why Ryan was acting as if he had caught me cheating. He was the one who cheated. We just ran into each other. What's the problem? Ran into each other? The rumor that he hugged and cuddled you downstairs at your company has spread like wildfire. You two used to be in a relationship, and now our wedding is coming soon. Don't you know how to avoid suspicion?" Ryan's words seemed to be shouted out. Obviously, he was extremely angry. After being with Sean for 7 years, my childhood sweetheart sent me a video of Sean kissing a female college student. I didn't cry or make a fuss. I resolutely gave him up and ended up with my childhood sweetheart. But on the eve of the wedding, Sean found me and sneered, "Suri, do you think Ryan is any good? He threw me a video showing my sister sleeping with your childhood sweetheart. What a bastard." That bitch's mother stole my mother's husband, and now the daughter is coming to steal my fiancé. Seeing my face turn pale, Sean smiled smugly and mockingly. Sorry, is this the kind of guy you chose after breaking up with me? But if you beg me now, I might consider getting back together with you. I raised my head and smiled smugly. Really? Since you said so, I'm definitely getting married. Sean's smug expression disappeared, and his face turned gloomy. Sorry, are you cheap? Ryan slept with another woman on the eve of your wedding. Are you still going to marry him? I tried hard to calm my emotions and asked in return, isn't it even cheaper to get back together with the ex-boyfriend of the cheating female college student? Sean's expression froze, and his eyes reddened. You were always so busy with work back then. I was just having fun with her, and it was over long ago. I begged you countless times, but you didn't give me a single chance. Why are you still willing to marry Ryan even though he cheated? I really didn't want to argue with him, so I replied, I'm happy to do so. Sean gritted his teeth but could do nothing about me. He could only leave angrily. After Sean left, I sat alone on the sofa, feeling cold all over, but my thoughts became calmer. Sean was really naive. When we were young, we could have a passionate love affair. But now that we're at the age of starting a family and building a career, we can't afford to mess around anymore. My family and Ryan's family have been friends for generations. The two families' marriage has already caused a big stir in the media. Our marriage involves the interests of both families. Even the slightest problem at the wedding could cause fluctuations in the stock prices of both families. Since there's no love between us anymore, at least I have to hold on to the interests of both families tightly. On this day, I had a dinner appointment with Ryan. Halfway through, he received a phone call. After just a few words from the other side, his expression immediately became tense. Don't do anything stupid. I'll be there right away. After hanging up the phone, Ryan apologized to me with a pitiful look, like a little dog. Sorry. There's something going on at the company. I have to go back. Something going on at the company? I'm afraid it's Cecilia who has something going on, right? I don't understand what Ryan is thinking. He clearly knows my family's situation. My mother was driven to death by Cecilia's mother. Who couldn't he cheat with? Why did he have to cheat with Cecilia? Why did he have to disgust me like this? The young man who used to curse Cecilia and her mother with me is now sleeping with her. Disgusting. It's so disgusting, but I can't break up with him right now. I clenched my trembling hands and let him go. Less than 5 minutes after Ryan left, Sean showed up out of nowhere. He sat in Ryan's seat, crossed his long legs, and looked at me. He didn't say anything, and I didn't bother to pay attention to him either. I just focused on eating. Sean couldn't hold on for even a minute and took the initiative to speak. Sorry, guess what Ryan is going to do? He said there's something going on at the company. Oh, you really believe that? He's gone to see your sister. Oh. Obviously, Sean wasn't satisfied with my reaction. He slammed his fist on the table, with a gloomy face and gritted teeth. Sorry, are you deaf? I said he's gone to see your sister. I looked up at his out-of-control expression and asked, and then? How can you tolerate him but not me? At least I didn't sleep with that woman. Maybe I love him more. That sentence broke Sean's defense again. He got up again and left angrily. Before leaving, he left a sentence, sorry, don't you regret it? How could I regret it? When I would be desperate for love. Now that I'm 28, I just want to make money. Marrying into the Ryan family can help me make more money. I thought Ryan would stay overnight at Cecilia's place. Unexpectedly, he came back that night. He even brought me a bouquet of roses. Sorry, these are for you. His expression was so innocent, like a big boy confessing his love to a girl he liked, with his eyes shining brightly. I was a bit curious. Ryan didn't major in acting in college. How could he act so well? He was sleeping with another woman while pretending to be affectionate with me here. What was he after? I couldn't figure it out, and I didn't bother to think about it. I accepted Ryan's flowers, and he happily hugged me. Sorry, it's so nice. You'll belong to me alone soon. You'll belong to me alone soon too. I replied. At least in name. Ryan got a bit excited when he heard this answer. He leaned in and wanted to kiss me, but thinking that not long ago, this mouth of his might have been kissing Cecilia, I felt sick to my stomach. I pushed him away. Sorry? Ryan looked at the disgust on my face that hadn't been completely hidden yet, looking hurt. I didn't want to meet his gaze and said, I have a stomachache. It wasn't an excuse. I do have a stomach problem. I got this illness from working too hard in the past few years. Now I'm very delicate, afraid of cold, heat, acid, and spicy food. Even getting too emotional can make it hurt, so I usually don't get too emotional. It's just that I was so disgusted tonight that it started to hurt again. Ryan also knew that I had a stomach problem, so he didn't dare to be careless and immediately went to get me medicine. Then we just pretended that nothing had happened a weekend. Ryan and I went back to the Surrey family. After my mother died, I seldom went back there and lived elsewhere. But now that we're getting married, there are always some unavoidable things to discuss. Ryan, you're here. Cecilia completely ignored me and greeted Ryan directly when she came out. Fortunately, Ryan still knew to be discreet and just replied faintly. During the meal, Cecilia kept putting food on Ryan's plate, being extremely attentive. Ryan, eat more. These are all your favorites. Thank you. Ryan was very polite and also put food on my plate. Sorry, this is relatively light. You should eat more. Seeing Cecilia almost grinding her back teeth in anger, I found it funny. It seems that Ryan didn't promise Cecilia any status. At least he knows what's important, but Cecilia isn't that sensible. The next day, she came to the company to find me, with a confrontational attitude. Sorry, I have something to talk to you about. Just right. Actually, I also had something to talk to her about, so we went to the coffee shop downstairs. I slept with Ryan. Cecilia was triumphant. I calmly took a sip of coffee. It was so bitter. The waiter must be new and forgot to add sugar. I put down the cup and glanced at Cecilia. And then? Cecilia didn't expect me to be so calm and gritted her teeth. The person Ryan loves is me. He's chasing you just because it's a task given by his family, so it's a task? No wonder he pretended to be affectionate in front of me. Cecilia, since you know that he's marrying me because of family reasons, you shouldn't come to provoke me. I hold 45% of the shares of the Surrey family. If Ryan doesn't marry me, is he going to marry you? The incident of the mistress trying to force the legitimate wife out caused a big stir before. The Surrey family promised to never give the shares of the Surrey family to the mistress and her daughter to give my mother's side an explanation. My words hit Cecilia hard. She immediately reddened her eyes, looking weak and pitiful. Unfortunately, there was no man here to pity her. She angrily said to me, Sorry, let's wait and see. My mother could win against your mother, and I can win against you too. I'll wait and see. If you can make Ryan change his mind and marry you, that's your ability. But don't come to provoke me again in the future. That's what I want to tell you today. Now you can leave. Cecilia left angrily. I didn't move from my seat. Because of that bitter cup of coffee, my stomach started to hurt again. Just when I wanted to take a break, Sean walked in from outside. He walked straight towards me. Obviously, he was coming for me. This guy is really like a ghost that won't go away. Sorry, why bother? Speak plainly. I quietly rubbed my stomach, having no energy to argue with him. Sean glared at me angrily. Ryan allows this kind of woman to humiliate you, and you still want to marry him? Our wedding is coming soon. Who else should I marry if not him? Marry me. I'll definitely treat you well and never let any woman humiliate you like this. He said it very seriously, looking extremely affectionate. I found it funny. Thinking back many years ago, he also said to me so seriously that he would treat me well. But in fact, 7 years later, we grew further and further apart, spending less and less time together. He was also photographed kissing a female college student by Ryan. That female student later knelt down and begged me to let them be together. Isn't it the same thing? How dare he say such things? Sean, get lost. You make me sick. I got up to leave. But the intense pain in my stomach made me black out. When I woke up again, I was lying on the hospital bed, and Sean's anxious and distressed expression came into my view. You know you have a bad stomach but still drink coffee. Do you think you're too tough to die? Sorry, you swore that you would live a better life when you left me. But look at you now? Your fiancé betrayed you, and you don't even take good care of yourself with your stomach problem. I'm sorry, okay? I really won't do it again. Can you come back to me and let me take care of you? Sean said a lot more, but my thoughts drifted away. After my mother died, my father and the mistress couldn't wait to seize my shares. When I was in college, because of Cecilia's interference, others thought I was the mistress's daughter and bullied me in various ways. Ryan wanted to help me when he found out, but he was studying abroad at that time and it was too far away to help in time. Sean was a star at school back then, shining brightly. He came like a god and led me out of the darkest time. We naturally got together, until he told the female college student that he was tired of me long ago and would find a way to get rid of me and give her a status. I just realized. Probably all men are so fickle. My father is. Sean is. Ryan is too. Sean is now trying to win me back, not because he loves me that much, but because he's unwilling. He's just unwilling that I was the one who proposed the breakup first. Because of my stomach problem, I didn't go to the company. I went home after leaving the hospital. Unexpectedly, Ryan was also there. Seeing me come back, he immediately turned to look at me. His usually sunny face was now ashen. Did you meet Sean? I don't understand why Ryan is acting like he caught me cheating. He's the one who cheated. Just ran into him. What's the matter? Ran into him? The news that he hugged and cuddled you downstairs at your company has spread everywhere. You two used to be in a relationship, and now that we're about to get married, don't you know, to avoid suspicion. Ryan's words seemed to be shouted out. Obviously, he was extremely angry. Now he's swaggering around and using our joint marital property to court Cecilia. Fine, I've taken note of it. But I don't want to bother with these things. I just confessed directly to Ryan's mother. Mom, Ryan is with Cecilia now. I originally told him that it would be okay as long as he didn't make it public, but I didn't expect him to be so high profile. Ryan's mother fell silent after hearing this. After a long while, she said to me in a deep voice, "Sorry, don't worry. I'll handle this matter for you. I will never let what happened to your mother happen to you again." Ryan's mother and my mother were good sisters. Naturally, she also hated Cecilia and her mother, the two home-wrecking mistresses, to the core. Okay, thank you, Mom. Not long after, Ryan came to me furiously. Did you tell Mom about Cecilia's matter? I looked at the computer and said, you were the one being too high profile and got Mom's attention. She came to ask me, and I had no reason to hide it. Ryan walked over, turned my body around to make me look at him, and said hatefully, "Sorry, didn't you say that you didn't care what I did with Cecilia? But you told Mom about it. Now she wants Cecilia to go abroad and never come back. Don't you feel disgusted with your duplicity? Why couldn't this guy understand human language? Don't think that I'll break up with Cecilia because of this. I love her and am willing to give her the best." Ryan really knows how to hurt people. He must know how much I hate Cecilia, so he deliberately shows off how much he loves Cecilia in front of me. I don't know if it's because of love turning into hatred or if he's deliberately seeking revenge. It doesn't matter. Doesn't he just want to see me in pain? I won't let him succeed. Clap, clap, clap. I clapped my hands and said, "How touching. What a pair of ill-fated lovers. Will the wedding still go on?" "Of course." Ryan sneered, "Extremely cruel. What could be more satisfying than keeping you by my side and making you live like a widow?" The sunny, clingy young man from before seemed to be dead. Every word he said was like poisoned. I lowered my eyes and said calmly, "Okay, as long as the wedding goes on. This week is coming to an end. When are we going to try on the wedding dresses and suits?" "I'm not going. I'll only be Cecilia's groom." "Okay, I'll find someone with a similar figure to try them on." After Ryan left, Sean called, "Suri, have you made up your mind?" Suri said, "I'm still considering it." Sean was silent for a while, then said with a half smile, "Will you really cancel the arranged marriage? Don't try to fool me. If you think so, then so be it. Sean was so angry with me that he gritted his teeth but couldn't do anything about it. The wedding is in 10 days. I'll give you 9 more days. Okay. Sean hung up the phone. Then he dialed another number and called Cecilia. Hurry up. You still can't handle it even after sleeping with him. Go ask your mother for advice more often. After Ryan had a fight with Suri, he bought a bunch of gifts for Cecilia. He's now like a rebellious teenager going backwards in his growth. He does whatever makes others unhappy and always goes against others. Since he's not allowed to be with Cecilia, he insists on taking her to various private parties every day with his arm around her. Even some friends couldn't stand it anymore. They privately told him, Ryan, that's enough. You're getting married soon. You should restrain yourself a little and give Suri some face. Face? She doesn't need it. She has someone else in her heart. Really? She can't forget Sean. The friends looked at each other and didn't want to interfere anymore. They just comforted him. Isn't that how arranged marriages in wealthy families are? Everyone does their own thing. Don't take it too seriously. But you're getting married soon, and the media has been watching closely. If it gets too big, it won't be good for the company either. Mind your own business. Ryan ignored his friend's advice and called Cecilia again. Come out. Cecilia came to Ryan eagerly. She nestled against Ryan's chest like a delicate little bird, acting coquettish and pretending to be aggrieved. Brother Ryan, when will you give me a proper status? I'm already yours. I don't want to be a mistress. Aren't so many gifts enough to shut you up? Cecilia thought to herself, what are gifts? What she wanted was to be the mistress of the Ryan family. Your mother is so fierce. She said that if I don't go abroad before the wedding, she'll make things difficult for me. They all look down on me and my mother. Brother Ryan, as long as I become Mrs. Ryan, no one will dare to gossip. You want to be Mrs. Ryan? Cecilia looked at Ryan expectantly. She could clearly feel now that this man loved her. Otherwise, why would he take her to friends' parties frequently and buy her so many luxury goods? Mom was right. Once sex was involved, men would always be a bit more tender. She wanted to follow up on her success and make Ryan dump Suri and marry her. Unexpectedly, Ryan just sneered, you're fit to be a mistress at most. Want to be Mrs. Ryan? Are you worthy? On the day before the wedding, it was also the day when I had to give Sean an answer. Sorry, what's your reply? There was an unfathomable vortex in Sean's eyes, as if he would swallow me up immediately if I dared to say a word that dissatisfied him. But I straightened my back and said to Sean, I still plan to marry Ryan. Our two families have too many intertwined interests. If we break up at this time, both families will be seriously affected. In the end, you still can't bear to part with him. Sean gritted his teeth, and his face was terribly gloomy. Sean, what's missed is missed. Let's part on good terms. Part on good terms? Sean lowered his eyes, as if he had decided something, and then smiled at me again, looking relieved. He raised his glass and said, well, since you're so insistent, I'll respect your idea. Sorry, let's have a drink. I drank that glass of wine under Sean's watch. Unsurprisingly, my head began to feel dizzy. Sean helped me go upstairs to the hotel room. But in the end, it was Sean who fell into a deep sleep first. I got up from the bed, looked at the man sleeping beside me, and sneered. I knew Sean too well. How could he really let go so easily? He put something in the wine. I estimated that in a while, someone would come to catch us in the act. But he didn't know that I also put something in the wine he drank. So his plan was doomed to fail. Half an hour later, Ryan called. His voice was bone-chillingly cold, with a hint of imperceptible nervousness. Sorry, where are you? At home. What's the matter? Impossible. She's clearly in the hotel. Cecilia shrieked. Ryan immediately hung up the phone, but within a few minutes, he sent a video call invitation. I clicked on it. When Ryan saw that I was indeed at home, his eyes immediately lit up. Sorry, you're really at home. I said calmly, Ryan, tomorrow is the wedding. I don't care what you and Cecilia do. but I don't want anything to go wrong with tomorrow's wedding. Okay. Ryan looked extremely happy and said, sorry, I'll sort out my relationship with Cecilia. The wedding went smoothly. No one came to disturb it. The medicine in the wine I gave Sean was very potent. At least before today, he wouldn't wake up, and Cecilia was strictly guarded by Ryan's mother, who firmly refused to let her show up. On the wedding night, Ryan seemed to have turned back into the sunny, slightly shy big boy from before. He hugged me and said happily, Suri, shall we start over? In the future, I'll definitely be a good husband and treat you well. I didn't want to hear these empty vows anymore. I pushed him away and got straight to the point. Ryan, we'll get divorced in 6 months. Ryan shuddered all over. All the blood drained from his face, and he looked incredulous. Suri, what are you talking about? Divorce? My eyes were extremely cold, as if I were looking at something dirty. Ryan, don't you really think that just by breaking up with Cecilia we can go back to the way we were? Ryan was shaking all over, shaking his head and saying in a trembling voice, No, I didn't think so. I want to make it up to you. Just tell me, and I'll do anything. Then we'll get divorced in 6 months, and 40% of the Ryan family's shares will belong to me. Ryan broke down, you want shares? I can give you all my shares. The whole Ryan family can be yours. But why must we get divorced? Because I think you're dirty. Do you know how disgusted I was when I saw you and Cecilia together? Ryan, you're such an asshole. When other lovers quarrel, they just sulk in a corner. But you went straight to Cecilia's bed. The first time you said you couldn't get it up, but the second time? You were having a great time, Suri. Ryan was crying, looking so aggrieved. He wanted to explain, but he opened his mouth several times but couldn't say a word. Finally, he refused to give up and asked, You despise me so much. Then why did you marry me? Why not just cancel the wedding? And why wait 6 months to get divorced? The reason I married you is that I didn't want the failure of the arranged marriage to cause chaos in the company. 6 months is a buffer period. Besides, there's no other reason. Suri. I've already drawn up the divorce agreement. Just sign it. After Ryan signed it, I went to sleep. The next day, Sean, who had finally woken up, immediately came to me furiously to demand an explanation. Cecilia, who was supposed to have gone abroad, somehow came along with him. Suri. Come out. Suri. Ryan, who hadn't slept all night, saw Sean coming and seemed to have found an outlet for his anger. He immediately rushed downstairs. Sean, are you done yet? I'm already married to Suri. Married? Sean sneered, his face a bit distorted. Are you worthy? You were still with Cecilia before getting married. Well, I brought your lover here for you. Brother Ryan, I don't want to go abroad. Whoa, you've slept with me. You can't abandon me. Cecilia was crying pitifully beside him. Ryan now felt extremely disgusted when he saw Cecilia. If it weren't for this woman, how could Suri break up with him so completely? He said with hatred, You're the daughter of a mistress. Any noble family would be ashamed to marry you. You're just a tool for me to anger Suri. Do you really think you can take the position? Brother Ryan. Cecilia looked at Ryan in disbelief, never expecting him to be so heartless. Sean didn't bother with their affairs. He growled, Ryan, let me see Suri. Ryan also hated Sean to the core. Who would let you see her? If you don't let me see her, I'll break in. Sean was about to force his way in, and Ryan tried his best to stop him. I got dressed and came downstairs. No need to look for me. Sean, just say what you want to say here. When Sean saw me, his eyes immediately turned red. He said unwillingly, Suri, you're actually getting married to another man. I asked in a calm voice, so what if I'm getting married? Sean, didn't you say you'd respect my thoughts? Sean went crazy, and his handsome face became distorted. Who gave you permission to get married? You're mine. Mine. Ryan flew into a rage. Bullshit. Suri is married to me. She's my wife. She's mine. The two lunatics were arguing fiercely. I interrupted them. Have you two argued enough? Sean looked at me again, his eyes red. looking so aggrieved. Suri, why are you so cruel to me? You didn't even give me a single chance. You didn't even let me come to bless you on your wedding day. If I let you come, could my wedding still go on? I said coldly, Sean, don't think you're so innocent. From bribing the cleaner to put our photo in my jewelry box to sending me the video of Cecilia sleeping with Ryan, haven't you been plotting against me all along? Sean, you really disgust me to the core. Under the guise of loving me, you kept setting traps for me. If I hadn't known you well enough, on the day before the wedding, I might have been raped by you. You bastard. You wanted to ruin me, and now you're still pretending to be affectionate and feeling aggrieved, right? Suri, what did you say? He put the photo in the jewelry box. Ryan suddenly realized something. He seemed to have finally found the culprit and immediately rushed up to fight with Sean. Sean, you bastard. You framed me. Ryan, are you any better? That woman confessed to me at that time that you arranged for her to seduce me. So there was such explosive gossip? I just wanted to laugh now. Sean and Ryan the worst of the worst. Until now they still thought that if it weren't for each other they would have already ended up with me. But they didn't think about it. If they had been firm in their will, how could they have been so easily tricked? They're both rotten to the core. Seeing the bodyguards coming this way, I knew that Mrs. Shin was sending people to arrest them. I said to Cecilia, who was completely stunned, Cecilia, you had an affair with my husband and got hundreds of millions of gifts. As Ryan's legal wife, I'll file a lawsuit to claim back all the property that Ryan gave you. Hearing this, Cecilia felt as if she had been struck by lightning. No! Suri, that was given to me by brother Ryan. You're ignorant of the law. Go argue with the judge. Bitch. I'll kill you. Cecilia, who had lost both her man and her wealth, was furious and rushed up to fight me. But the bodyguards arrived in time and held her back. Miss Cecilia, it's time for you to go to the airport. No. Brother Ryan, I don't want to go abroad. Woo-woo, brother Ryan, save me. But Ryan was still in a fierce fight with Sean and had no time to care about her. Half a year later, I divorced Ryan. Thanks to the buffer period, the company wasn't affected. And with 40% of the shares of the Ryan family, I also acquired the remaining shares of the Suri family and became the largest shareholder of the Suri family. I drove my father and the mistress out of the villa where my mother and I used to live. They hated me deeply and wanted to use public opinion pressure to make me compromise. But I had already done the public relations work in advance. The incident of the mistress driving the legitimate wife to death became a hot topic again, and of course, they became the targets of public criticism. When Sean heard the news of my divorce, he came up to me again, unwilling to give up and wanting to win me over. Knowing that I focused on my career, he didn't hesitate to give up huge profits to cooperate with me. Only a fool would turn down money, so I accepted it all. When Ryan knew that Sean was pestering me, he followed suit and offered concessions for cooperation. The two of them fought openly and secretly, and I was happy to reap the benefits as the fisherman. A few years later, Cecilia returned to China. She was jealous of me and hated me to death. She wanted to take revenge on me, so she took a fruit knife and tried to stab me. Unsurprisingly, she was stopped by my bodyguards, and I sent her to prison instead. When she was being taken away, Cecilia cursed me, saying that I would never find true love in my life. True love? How ridiculous. This stupid woman was still obsessed with love at her age. People can live without love, but without money, they definitely can't survive. President Suri, the meeting is about to start. Yeah. I walked towards my commercial building. The future was full of broad prospects. The end.